Good afternoon, and what is up, Razorback Nation? Welcome into your Sunday afternoon of Razor Recap, brought to you by Hawgs on the Hill, your go-to podcast for an in-depth dive into all things Arkansas Razorbacks. We're brought to you by our friends over at Razor Pigs. Looking good never felt so fun. Razor Pigs is the Arkansas-born brand, bringing some serious style to the golf course, tailgate, and everywhere in between. From high-quality polos to head-turning hats, they've got what you need to rep the natural state with pride. Founded right here at home and now run by a Razorback-loving family, Razor Pigs is where comfort meets cool. So go hog wild and shop Razor Pigs today at razorpigs.us. And our friends over at Scarlet Letter, Arkansas's very own handcrafted spiked seltzer. You can check them out today. And if you are in Northwest Arkansas, you can check out the Core Brewery Tap Room in downtown Springdale, where you can get Scarlet Letter and all of its various flavors, as well as its new hard teas that they just released. Well, Zane, it is Sunday afternoon. Arkansas sitting at 1-0 in conference play. Couldn't be much better. Plus, you've got all the transfer portal action going on.
Yeah, definitely a big game yesterday. Was fantastic environment in there. Just from the get-go, you could tell it was going to be a good crowd. It was going to be a fun crowd. Stripe Out did look pretty cool. But, yeah, it was fantastic game, fantastic start to conference play. I think it's first time since 2021 we've started 1-0 in conference, so good to kind of, start off strong and not start off 0-1. But yeah, no, great game. So, Hawks got that 11-point win and kind of limited Tennessee on their strong points. So, yeah, it was definitely a fantastic game.
I was about to say, not to mention, we were both really close on our score predictions, too.
Yes, we were. but yeah, no. So, I mean, the big thing, obviously, I talked about it Thursday. Tennessee came in 5th in the nation with 15.5 offensive rebounds a game, and they only had 11. And not only that, we actually had 12. So we actually out-rebounded them on the offensive side, as well as overall 36-33. So I was definitely kind of, worried about, we talked about their top 5 scores. 4 of them were post. 1 of them was a guard. Their presence in the paint was going to be a big problem for us. And, we held on really well down there. I think the post played probably their best game of the season down there. And it was a battle. I mean, shots weren't falling for either team early. And you knew right away it was going to be a dogfight. We did actually end up getting outscored in the paint by 12. 44-32, but whenever we offensive rebounded the way we did, it's okay. And I think we kind of wore them down. It kind of helped that Gillespie or whatever got in foul trouble. So their one big guard kind of getting in foul trouble definitely hurt them and helped us in the long run.
Right, and that was the big thing too. Arkansas didn't start the game the best. Cal had to take a quick timeout, but after that timeout, Arkansas was able to come out, establish their tone and type of play like we talked about, that up and down, fast break type of offense. And from there on out, Arkansas was just, it seemed to be firing on all cylinders. And I mean, when you talk about this game, you can't talk about it without talking about Darius Acuff. I mean, how many times have we seen him continuously step up in the big moments, in the big games? Like they put out a, graphic talk, not a graphic, but necessarily a tweet talking about, his stat line across all the major opponents that we played. And he just continues to get better.
Like, he's little less efficient shooting on those, but he's probably having to kind of shoulder more. He is playing just over 3 minutes more a game in those 6 ranked games compared to the rest of the season. But yeah, on the season, 19.5 points, 6 assists, 3.1 rebounds. In those ranked games, though, he's averaging 21.7 points. Right. So he's actually scored more in those big games, not to mention 6.7 assists. So yeah, he's playing more minutes. Yeah, his points and assists are up. He is a little less efficient, but I mean, just the workload he's carrying game in, game out, it's amazing that he's been able to play the way he has for all of these ranked games.
Right, and you love to see a freshman like him step up to the spotlight instead of, some freshmen, the lights are too bright, they struggle in these big
Yeah,
games. But you look at
Native
him,
Mint.
starting back at, first big game of the season at Michigan State, he scored 16.6 assists. Next game, Duke, 21 points, 5 assists. Louisville, Arkansas's big win to start the season at home as far as non-conference, 17 points, 10 assists, so double-double there. Texas Tech, 20 points, 8 assists. Houston, 27 points, 7 assists. And then, of course, yesterday, 29 points to go along with 4 assists, 3 rebounds, 1 block, 1 steal, all in 36 minutes of play.
Yeah, another thing I love to see that is 8 of 9 from the free throw line. And, there was a point where, not to dog on Muss, but Muss never really used his timeouts. I think Cal was very smart there in the second half. Acuff, you could tell, was gassed, was winded, just gotten fouled, and Cal called a timeout to go and give him a breather. He came out of that breather, hit both free throws. So, it was big right there, just kind of, hey, do the little things, utilize your timeouts, and that's where I love having Cal as a coach. I just feel like the little things like that can get overlooked, he does right.
Right.
And definitely happy with the way they played throughout the game.
Yeah, and then, especially with him, after those free throws, not long after that, essentially Acuff takes himself out of the game just because, like we'd mentioned, he is so winded and exhausted, but came in those last final minutes of the game. But, sets a career high of 29 points this season and easily solidifying himself as, going into the draft as one of the top players, top 5, type lottery pick with the season that he's having. And it's like Cal said in his post-game press conference, he said, Darius Acuff is a beast. He is like, I'm going to tell you right now, this pair of, of guards, these 1-2, there's not a better freshman combo in the country between Darius and Malik. He is like, you guys can have your opinion.
Volumes. I think it also speaks volumes how Rick Barnes was talking after the game. They asked him about Darius Acuff, like, hey, you've coached against and coached some great freshman guards. What impresses you most about him? And he went on to say, hey, the body language from him. He doesn't carry a level of cockiness or anything with him. No arrogance. He's out there. He gets the job done. He does what he's supposed to do. And it's just, that's such a mature approach and just way to handle himself on the court. And I love that. Just because, I feel like you can get guys who, hey, when you're putting up the numbers he's putting up, you can definitely get cocky and A, take some ill-advised shots, and B, just think you're all that, and definitely doesn't come across like that during the game. So,
right,
definitely good to kind of see him stay grounded while also performing at the level he is. That's also very promising, I feel.
Right, and then you look at it too, like you said, staying grounded. You see him, he hits a big shot. What does he do? He just gets back on defense, no showboating. He just does his thing.
Just kind of jog back. Hey, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's
right.
my job.
He's out there to do a job, and he's gonna do it. So, fantastic play from him. But then, your second leading scorer in the game, which we talked about, I hope the James Madison game would help. Well, Malik Thomas come out and is your second leading scorer, puts up 18 points. 6 of 13 shooting, 3 of 4 from deep.
Mostly quiet in the second half.
Yeah.
But hit that big 4-point play when we were down 4 that I think really just kind of, again, making the big plays when you need to. So. Right.
And then he chips in 3 rebounds, 1 assist, and 3 steals in 30 minutes. So you see an uptick in his numbers a little bit. But, good to see him getting back up there and, that top end of your scoring for your guys. Because, we talked about we're going to need him in conference play to step up. And then, Malik Ewan continuing to do his thing. He scores 12 points, off 2 of 4 of shooting. Most of his points coming from free throw line, and you love to see the 8 of 8, 100%.
Yes, love to see the percentage on that.
Especially because, I believe it was the Houston game. The announcers were talking about, well, he started the season 15-15, but his free throws fell off a little bit, but now he's getting back to it.
Yeah.
So you love to see that. He also gives you 6 boards, 4 blocks, and 1 steal in 27 minutes. And that was the big thing. If you saw the little clip posted on social media, Cal talks about him in the locker room with the guys about how looking at him with those 4 blocks, coming in there and just, making it tough to score for the Tennessee bigs.
Yeah, no, it was great to see, and that's really what we needed. with our bigs, with the team combining for 10 blocks. It was great to see with how physical and not obvious, but how physical and just how many post players Tennessee can throw out there. Obviously, they want to get the ball in the paint. That's pretty much obvious to see watching them play. So seeing that kind of physicality come into play, I think like Cal said in the post game as well. Yeah, he had Nolan Richardson at practice, and he kind of took over the defense. So that was good to see. I know a bunch of Hog fans probably loved hearing that. So that's always awesome too. And you gotta wonder if that gave him a little bit extra juice, and if we can hope to kind of see this defensive performance moving forward. So it was really good to see. Another thing that did really help us, and I said earlier, the fans were amazing. It was a great atmosphere, and I think that was kind of obvious from the free throw line. Tennessee was 12 of 23, only 52%. Arkansas was 29 of 33. So, yeah, we shot 10 more, but we also made 17 more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was the game right there.
Right.
But we knew coming in Tennessee wasn't the best free throw shooting team. They were 69.9% as a team, 238th in the league. So, and also some of their big physical guys, hey, let's come to the free throw line and see what we can do with them. And
Right.
the students and just the entire fan base that was there really helped make the free throw line hard for them all night. And I think that was very undervalued, but I feel like it was great to see.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, when you look at it too, those two stats, the 14 or the 10 blocks, but then, even the commentators talked about it. You look on the other side of that defensively, forcing 14 turnovers.
Yeah.
That's big from our defense, getting,
for sure.
racking up the intensity, especially as you enter conference play. And then, I'm also glad to see, it's been an up and down season for him so far, but Carter Knox coming back out and giving you some good points. He gives you 11 points, 3 of 8 from the field, 1 of 5 from deep, 4 of 5 from the line. Gives you 7 rebounds, 1 block, 1 steal in 27 minutes. So if he can kind of build off this, and you have Darius going, Malik going, well, both Malik's going, and then you get an added boost from Carter, that's fantastic.
And you didn't even mention Brazil and what he can do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Even this game when he shot 3 of 10, 0 of 5 from 3, he still pumped so much juice into the fan base with those couple putback dunks. I mean, he just has that ability to get everyone on their feet and kind of switch momentum real quick and easy. And that's also just, he's had games where he's been on. So he wasn't even especially on from outside and all that, and they still were able to pull that out. So, you get him having a decent game shooting, that's going to spell even more trouble for everyone.
Right, because even though he only scored 7 points, you look at the rest of the stat line, 7 rebounds, one block, 2 steals. So he's still doing other things and playing 38 minutes. Like he's doing some of those intangibles, like you said. Yeah, he only went 3 for 10, but those putback dunks, just energizing the team. That still affects your team.
His size and athletic ability just also played a big role. I mean, he actually had more minutes than everyone else. He played 38 minutes that game. So he was on the court more than everyone else was, and just, he was probably gassed there at the end, but he was still guarding Ament, making shots difficult. Granted, Ament did make some pretty tough shots down the stretch, but it's a lot harder to make those shots when you have someone like Brazil in your face. So he was still able to kind of at least make a mark, made a couple misses happen. So it was great to see that.
Yeah, and I think the big thing too is it's like the announcers consistently said, and I think this will probably, be a common factor across the rest of the SEC season, is they talked about how hard and bothersome Arkansas's length and athleticism is. Arkansas is very long, very athletic. They said probably one of the most athletic teams, not only in the SEC, but across the country.
Yeah, so, I mean, you think about the guys that play. Acuff is 6'3", Wagner 6'3", Malik, I think, is 6'6". I think Knox is 6'6", 6'7".
Oh, Malik Thomas, yeah.
Yeah, Malik Thomas. And then Billy's 6'6", 6'7". And then you have Pringle 6'11", Ewan 6'10", Brazil 6'10". I mean, you have some height and some length there, and just some athletes out there. So It's a big team, but it's not exactly a big slow zone team that's going to
Right.
just make passes difficult. They get up and they run with the ball, and it's impressive to watch.
Yeah, just the ability, like with the length, the number of tip passes you see that they're able to
Yeah,
get their hands on and then force into a turnover is just that's going to be
yeah,
key down the stretch. But like, I want to hit on something you mentioned. Nate Mint, a guy that we thought for a hot minute was going to be in an Arkansas jersey, turned out not to be the case. Comes in, he puts 13 points up in this game, but most of those came in the second half. Arkansas pretty much shot him down in the first half,
yeah.
limiting him to 3 points, 2 total shots from the field, takes 4 free throws, misses 3, only has 2
All in the
rebounds.
last 2 minutes of the first half. There, finished 5 of 11 from the free throw line. Yeah, I think they got in his head early. I think the boo this guy a bud or whatever coming back and choosing him. So every single time he touched the ball, he was booed. Not to mention air ball, got the air ball chance going for him. Definitely, I think played a factor in his head, and that's kind of like what you touched on earlier in the show about how sometimes the lights are too bright for freshmen, and I think you kind of saw him. I think they were relying on him to really step up and have a good game, just considering how much focus he had for him, but also like when they were running set plays, it looked like a lot of those looks and a lot of those plays were designed for him to get an open look. And again, Arkansas's length and athleticism made it difficult, took some of that away.
Mhm.
So I think it was one of those where you kind of saw the freshman come out in him and kind of, in the moment didn't perform the way that they were hoping.
Right. And I saw somebody kind of making a joke. They're like, man, it looks like I may watch the NBA a little too much as, he gets the ball and he just tries to consistently draw fouls instead
Yeah.
of, attacking the basket, whatnot. And so, I think that's one
And
thing. If
you got to credit the discipline for us. I'm not falling for that and
Right.
jumping into him and all that. So that's another little undervalued thing I feel like the discipline on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, but for him in Tennessee going forward, I think for him, and I think the announcers even mentioned this, physicality is something he's going to have to step up, especially in conference play going forward, and attacking the rim, because he's going to need to be a key piece, I think, for this Tennessee team going forward if they're going to have success. Now,
Yeah.
granted, you look at
I think they'll
Gillespie,
be
14
fine. I think
points.
they'll be good, but you definitely need him to be more physical if you're a Tennessee fan.
And it's one of those things. Maybe he's going to develop as the season goes on.
Yeah.
Different freshmen develop in different speeds. We've
He
seen
he
Darius.
looked to me kind of like Brazil did at times last year, almost playing a little hesitant, maybe. But like Brazil was still learning to trust his body after a torn ACL, so like that was different.
Mm-hmm.
But there were a few games or a few plays where Brazil you could just kind of tell was a little bit more hesitant and didn't kind of want to buy into the contact, kind of shied away from it all. So I kind of got that impression watching him that he was very much shy away from contact, just try to be the guy, but without being physical at all, and that was just kind of difficult.
Yeah, and I mean you see that with Arkansas's team itself is like just how your freshmen develop. We've seen Darius; he's developed much earlier. Is really in tune with the college game so far, and then we've seen Malik Thomas a little bit slower. Come out the gate. Doing well, but then had a little bit of ups and downs, and maybe this is an upswing we're seeing now after James
Yeah,
Madison having success in this game. So, I mean, everybody's going to be different, and I think that you're even seeing that with a Mint. So, I mean, I'm
yeah.
just glad that we have Darius, who is really blossoming into. I saw somebody say this yesterday, and I agree 100%. At this point, I think it's safe to say he's a generational type player.
I am hesitant to use that phrase. I could see it though. I can see how people would think that. But being realistic, I'm a little hesitant to call him a generational type player. But he is definitely very good. Not trying to discredit him at all. Just that's not really a phrase I throw around. So
Right.
I'm
It's
kind of
like
hesitant
if
when I
he can
use
Right, if he can come out here through the rest of, the remaining SEC schedule and put up these type of numbers, night in, night out, that makes it a little bit more easier to say if he can come out and just, doesn't matter who you play, you just dominate night in, night out. That, it's going to be one of those things. So, yeah, I get what you're saying there, but I mean, it's just the way he's played so far. Those types of phrases are getting thrown out there. And
yes, yeah, I can definitely agree with that.
So, fantastic game yesterday. Arkansas, able to battle back under that, initial adversity of slow start. Cal calls the timeout, settles his guys down, and then you kind of just lock in and go from there. And, you love to see this team have this type of game to open conference play at home.
Yeah, was definitely good to see.
And so, looking at it next, Arkansas will be headed on the road for its first road test of conference play as they head to Ole Miss, and that game will be on Wednesday, 8:00 on SEC Network. Ole Miss 8-6 on the season, 0-1, as they lost to Oklahoma
by 16
yesterday by 16 points, 86-70. Taking a quick look at this Chris Beard-led Ole Miss team.
It's entirely different from Tennessee. Tennessee, we had said, hey, their top 5 scores, they have a guard and then 4 posts. Ole Miss has a post and 5 guards in their top 6. So it's going to be a lot of guards. Malik Dia is their big guy. He's their leading scorer, leading rebounder, 14.5 points, 7 boards. He's going to be a little bit of a physical presence, but I also feel like our rotation of bigs should be able to at least contain him. A big thing that I don't like seeing, I don't hate seeing it for other teams, but I kind of hate whenever we're going up against it primarily, is they have 10 guys that play 10-plus minutes a game. So they have a deep bench, deep rotation. For Arkansas, a team that likes to get to the free throw line and drive, that's going to be a little bit difficult just because it's going to be tough to get some guys in foul trouble.
Right.
So that's kind of a big concern for me. And also, with us relying on the fast break so much, they're going to be a little bit more
fresh.
They have a little bit more subs than we do. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You look at it. You talked about Malik Dia, being their leading scorer. You look at their minutes distribution. One of their guards, Kamaradine, he's the highest on the team with 29 minutes played. So you don't even have a guy over 30 minutes. Whereas you look across Arkansas,
they only got 3 that play 20-plus minutes a game. So
right,
they sub a lot and they keep each other fresh. So that's going to be tough for us on the wearing people down at the fast break. But I think we showed against Tennessee, maybe not if it needs to slow down, but if you kind of take away some fast break opportunities, we're still able to kind of get the ball in the hoop and kind of have more of a half-court set, especially compared to a couple years ago whenever we relied so much on that. And then in half-court, it was almost like we don't know how to run a half-court offense. I think we definitely show that we have a half-court offense, so I feel better about it. Looking at them, I think 7 or 8 point win for Arkansas looking at it. It's just kind of my early gut feeling. Something like kind of similar to what I guess for Tennessee, 85-77 or so. So if I had to guess, at least that's kind of what I'm putting out there right now.
Yeah, and I think like you said, it's going to be, even with the rotation that they have, can you continue to play your type of game, get to the foul line. Yes, it's going to be a little bit tougher to get guys into foul trouble with the way they rotate. They'll be able to, rotate guys in or out. But, I feel like at this point, we say this every show. I'm going to take Arkansas's guards against anybody. Yeah. And, with them only having really one dominant big with Malik Dia, give me the platoon of Brazil, Ewan, and Pringle to, guard him. And then, you've got DJ, Darius, Malik, Carter, all these guards that, can, handle the rest of um, this Ole Miss offense.
Yeah. So I definitely think now Camerdine, is that how you say it? The guy
Yes.
plays 29 minutes a game.
Yes. 29 minutes a
Okay.
game, 11 points,
Yeah.
3
So
rebounds, 4 assists, 1.5 steal. Shoots 45% from the field, 69% from the free throw line, and 34% from three.
okay. So the thing I'm not worried about, but the thing that is different from what we've seen most games this year, they have some big guys. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
those guards are all 6'4", 6'5". So their guards are all same size as ours, if not. I mean, Acuff's 6'3". At least according to who they started against Oklahoma, Darius will be the second shortest guy on the court. They started Keza Gifa. He was 6'1".
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, their guards are 6'4", 6'5". The bigs are 6'10", 6'11". Um, but that little bit longer, taller guard is one that we haven't really gone up against too much. So I'm
Right.
interested to see what Acuff does when he doesn't have as much of a size advantage over some guards.
I think that's where you'll have to see him rely off on his speed and ability to beat
Yeah,
guys off the dribble.
yeah. Look for a lot of those drives, kind of like he did to Carey yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Drive right by and just kind of the lay it up right under his arm and all that. So I definitely am confident in his ability to still score. It's just going to be maybe it may take him a couple possessions just because it is some of the bigger guards that he will have gone against this year.
Right. And if you look at who Ole Miss has played, like we said, 8-6 on the season, you know, Southeast Louisiana, Louisiana Monroe, they beat a Memphis team that Arkansas beat as well. But then you look in the month of November into early December, they went on a 4-game losing streak, losing to Iowa, Utah, Miami, and St. John's before they got back in the winning column against Southern Miss. But, they weren't really necessarily battle tested early in the season. You've got some
Yeah.
decent teams. St. John's, probably the best team that they played.
I
And
mean, their
so,
best win on the season is probably Memphis and then followed by Southern Miss.
mm-hmm,
I'm not really sure what their Q1 and Q2 record is, or kind of what their record is by quadrant.
right.
Can't be that good though, just because I mean it seems like every power conference team they've played, they've lost to. So, but it's one of those where hey, let's see kind of what it is. Actually, give me just a sec. I can probably find it real fast.
I was about to say, yeah, if you do, um, looking at the net, let's see.
They're 101st in the net. 0-4 in quad one, 0-1 in quad two. Quad three, they're 2-1, and quad four, 6-0. So, I mean, 0-5 in quad one and two opportunities, 101st in the net. It's
It's not bode
obviously
well.
anything can happen in the SEC. Anyone can beat anyone. There's a lot of tough arenas, but I'm not super duper worried just because I feel like our talent kind of discrepancy is going to be able to handle anything else they throw at us. Also, only
Mm-hmm.
having with the post being our weakness, even though it's not really a weakness, just because of how good our guards are. With them only having one good post, it's kind of like okay, I'm not too worried about that with our platoon. So, but yeah, like for example, on the flip side of things, Arkansas is showing 28th in the net, but we are 3-3 in quad one, and then we haven't played quad two or three. So quad one and two were 3-3. They're 0-5. Just
Yeah.
kind of for a head-to-head comparison there.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. And too, and I think if you look at, like you said, our post play is not necessarily, quote unquote weakness, but I feel like Arkansas might have.
Compared to the guard play, it is in
Right.
a sense, just because our guard play is so high right now.
Right. And I hear what you're saying. What I was going to say is when you look at it though, even if that's the case, just like yesterday, Arkansas held its own against the platoon of bigs that Tennessee threw at you, and you kind of handled it just fine. So it's like, Arkansas has its ways of, countering, that weak
Yeah,
area that you
I
have.
think
So,
that's that experience of Cal as the coach is able to kind of tackle that and take care of it. Because I mean, let's entering conference play. If I had to pick a weakness for the team, it would be post defense and maybe attacking a zone. Just
mhm,
because I feel like there's times where some of us get a little, or some of our guys get a little trigger happy on the three. Not often. We don't live or die by it. I think early against Tennessee, we almost were. We kind of shot a handful of threes that we could have definitely settled for better shots, but also the three wasn't falling the entire game.
right,
It's one of those that, in my opinion, our weakness was handled well against Tennessee. So I'm not really sure there's a true weakness to this team right now, just from what I've seen, because they've been able to win games multiple ways against multiple kinds of teams.
mhm,
So, might be a little bit of a biased opinion, but I don't really see too many weaknesses on this team right now moving forward.
right. And I get what you're saying there. So you look at it. So, yeah, and I think that's the big thing, the Cal factor. Like you said, how many times have we seen him talk to his teams? It's like, hey, guys, you do your part, you get us there, I'll get us across the finish line. And
Yeah,
I think that's what you see in him doing, like those little things, like you said, taking the time out to let Acuff catch his breath. That's
yeah,
that's the little things Cal's doing to help this team get across the finish line. He sees his guys exhausted. He's having a heck of a game. Let me give him a quick breather before he shoots these free throws. So it's those little things that Cal does
because
that
if he didn't take
adds
that
up.
free throw, or if he doesn't take that timeout, and he misses one or both those free throws because he's so gassed, does that get in his head rest of the game? Like
Right.
it can snowball into more. So cutting that off before it even becomes a potential factor is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of those, I think you really only get that with experience.
Right. And as we know, it's like they were talking about yesterday. Two of the probably oldest, longest tenured coaches, Cal versus um, Rick Barnes. I mean, those guys, they were talking about it yesterday. Barnes been around, 39, Cal 34. They're
Yeah.
tied for most wins by active coaches in college basketball. So, I mean, it was just a great chess match to watch yesterday, and Arkansas came out on top.
Yeah. It was fantastic game to watch. Fantastic game to be a part of. And
Yeah.
I gotta admit, one of my favorite parts of the entire thing, I think you mentioned, you even heard on the broadcast, was the game was fairly in hand. We were up 10 or 11 with like a minute left, timeout calls, and we decided to play Rocky Top. And I kind of got a kick out of that part of it. And that was entertaining for sure.
Yeah. And yeah, like I told you this morning, it's like I could definitely hear that on TV. So it's fantastic to see, Arkansas having those little jabs that they'll do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
I think it's, me and my dad were talking. I think it's one of the more underrated rivalries in college sports, just because, mostly because of Vitello and Van Horn. Now Vitello gone, maybe not so much. But I feel like Tennessee and Arkansas fan bases have a very similar underdog mindset majority of the time. And we're very much have kind of the same, hey, work for what you get mentality as a fan base and as a school. So I feel like they're actually very similarly matched teams in schools, just kind of overall. So that was kind of, it's good to kind of get that little jab and get that win. So
100%. So, and it's a good day you can whenever you can beat Tennessee. So,
yep.
and so with that, we will jump over to Arkansas football as we talked about on our last show, Transfer Portal Eve. Well, that transfer portal is here, and Arkansas has been active with visitors coming and going. Have a handful of commitments already on, this is what I guess, day 2 of the day 3 of the transfer portal being officially open with it opening Friday.
This is third day.
We got things started this morning and we have some graphics to throw up here with getting a kicker, Braden McAllister, transferring in from Georgia State. With Scott Starzik coming back, I could see, they bring him in for kickoff duties. You lost Blake Ford. And so, you have a big leg coming in to take over kickoff duties. In 2025, he was 7 of 8 on PAT attempts, 36 touchbacks on 43 kickoff attempts. And he did hit a career record for him in a 60-yard field goal this past season. We'll have one season of eligibility.
Okay. It's definitely good to see that 60-yard field goal. And, there were a couple games, a couple stretches where Starzik didn't do bad as a kicker, but kind of had a couple little struggles. I feel like having an experienced kicker in there would maybe help as well. Kind of like we've talked about, giving a experienced quarterback to kind of give KJ some competition. Kicking competition is not bad either.
Right. I agree there. So, and then, you follow that up with, a big one here. Arkansas starting to attack some major needs here. Christian Harrison, transfer defensive back from Cincinnati. In 2025, 66 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, 7 pass breakups, 1 interception. We'll have one season of eligibility, and he is familiar with the SEC because prior to his stint at Cincinnati, he did play for Tennessee. So a guy that's familiar with the SEC, an experienced defensive back that can come in this room and really help this team as they look to rebuild the secondary.
Definitely good to get some Power 4 experience in there as well.
And I think that's the big thing is, we're not just going after, say, these JUCO guys or these guys that are, at some smaller programs. Yeah, it's great to get some of those top tier guys there, but to go out there and get some of those guys that have played at the high level, understand Power 4 football is just going to be big. I mean, if you look at one of the big stats I saw with Christian Harrison is in 577 coverage snaps, he's only allowed 1 career touchdown.
Okay, that's a great stat to see.
So, good thing there. Shows you that he can cover well, and it's going to be a great addition to this Arkansas defense as we look, like I said, we look to rebuild this secondary. Continuing on, another one of the big pickups, I think, for Arkansas is Malachi Breland. Spent 2025 at Memphis, one of these Memphis guys that we kind of figured would be headed over to follow Silverfield in 2025. He started all games for Memphis, 1 sack allowed in 482 pass blocking snaps, and we'll have 2 seasons of eligibility. He comes in at 6'5", 340, so brings some size. A guy that I think definitely will be able to come in and compete for one of those starting spots because as of right now, we know we have Caden Kittler back at center. You got Kobe Branham, Cash Courtney back. So you're going to need some guys to come in and compete and have experience that can come in and, fight for one of those spots right off the bat.
Yeah, definitely good to get some experience. Also, I've been impressed by Memphis' O-line last couple of years. Definitely like getting some Memphis O-linemen coming in here. So
I was about to say, and he, you look at just how well Memphis ran the ball last year. He is a big part of it, and so
he's a big body too, 6'5", 340 according to 24/7 Sports. So,
and he is going to be instantly seen as a favorite to start at one of those guard spots next year. And that is depending on who else Arkansas is able to grab in the portal. But having familiarity not only with your head coach, but with Tim Cramsey, the offensive coordinator, I think that just suits well for him being able to come in and really know what offensively what they're going to do and kind of have a leg up on one of those starting spots.
I agree. Definitely going to help, especially when the staff's familiar with him and all that. So he kind of knows what's expected of him. He knows, even like the little things. Hey, he knows what coaches are looking for in certain drills and like little things like that. So little things like that will help. I do expect him to probably start next year, but like you said, depending on who else we go out and get.
Right. And so, I just love how so far how we're attacking the portal. We'll go over some guys that will be visiting in a minute, but the last guy that we have committed today so far, and we've got one that I'll update you that just happened not too long ago. But we got Adam Johnson, long snapper from Sacramento State, who have 2 seasons of eligibility. We thought Ashton No, our long snapper this past season, was going to be out of eligibility. He was granted an extra year, but he is already going to plan to enter the transfer portal. So we're bringing in his replacement there with Adam Johnson. So, got to come in and take over those long snapping duties. So,
cool.
And then, the latest one we have is just 16 minutes ago, Arkansas did sign Tennessee kicker transfer Max Gilbert. He was the Vol starting kicker the past 2 seasons. So coming over, getting a couple guys in that kicking room for some good competition between Starzik, Braden, and now Max. So, you'll have some guys that'll compete for probably PATs, compete for kickoff duties. So bringing in some guys to have some competition.
Yeah, competition is always good. So,
especially that healthy competition can do wonders. I know some people, it's like you're locked into a spot. So, it's good to see. Now, on the flip side of that, Arkansas has a ton of visitors scheduled over the next few weeks. We'll start in quarterback position. Arkansas has had contact with Caden Hauser from ECU right now. The latest I've seen, it was between, he was down between us and Illinois, with some predictions and crystal balls have him going to Illinois. We'll see how that turns out. There's AJ Hill from Memphis, which he was on for a visit. He was actually at the basketball game yesterday. It seems like he could be a lock for Arkansas. But those two guys visiting,
both at all to having him. He seems like he's a talented quarterback, so that'd be good to have.
Yeah. And then another guy that haven't heard anything about official visit yet, but I threw on our kind of big board here of transfer portal quarterbacks is a home state kid, kind of a legacy kid, Walker White. A few years ago, out of Little Rock Christian, committed to Auburn over Arkansas. Then after his freshman season, transferred to Baylor. Well, he is now back in the portal, so maybe a guy to look out for on potentially visiting Arkansas and looking to come back home. You jump over to the running back group, Sutton Smith visiting Arkansas. We know that. Another guy that will be visiting Arkansas is Javante Barnes from Oklahoma. He is another running back that could be looking to potentially head to Arkansas. You jump over to wide receivers. So far, visit scheduled. You've got Tony Diaz out of University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. Malcolm Simmons from Auburn has already been here. He's posted a picture of him inside Razorback Stadium. Jared Richardson from Penn and Jamari Hawkins from Memphis, another Memphis guy familiar with Silverfield. Looking to add some bodies there as over the past couple of days, Arkansas's wide receiver room took a little bit of a hit. Andy Jean. Then we saw Cam Shanks has entered the portal, Cross Johnson, Zach Taylor. So bringing in some guys, it's always good to have that depth. And we still haven't heard necessarily from a few other guys. Tight ends, Arkansas has Elijah Lag from UAB visiting and has been in talks with Gavin Harrison out of New Mexico State. Jump over the offensive line. This is the one where you probably have the most visits. This in the D line and secondary. Carius Crone, obviously, he's going to go visit Ole Miss, and then directly after that, coming to visit Arkansas tomorrow, I believe. Paul Mubenga, the brother of Ben Mubenga, who is a signee in this year's class, has visited Arkansas. You've got Grant Segrin from Oklahoma State going to has a visit planned. Charlie Adams from Cal Poly. Adam Hawks from Oregon State, Joseph Hansen from Coastal Carolina, Malachi Precado from South Alabama, Javian Richardson from Missouri, and Dylan Skorsky from Oregon State. So you've got a handful of guys coming in for a visit.
Like we said, we need some more offensive linemen with the handful that we have coming back, but definitely need that depth on the O-line. So definitely good to get quite a few visitors coming in for that.
You jump over to your defensive line. So far, Melvin Hills from Texas is coming on a visit. As we saw just earlier today, Ian Jaffard announced that he was transferring to Texas. So there's the potential that we just do a swap there on the defensive line. You got Michael Borio from Florida coming in for a visit, Jason Jenkins from Florida State, Austin Ramsey from Kentucky, Vincent Jackson from UConn, Marcus Strong from Oklahoma, Hunter Osborne from Virginia, Carlin Jones from USC, and Thomas Collins from Oregon State, as well as Naquan Crowder from Marshall, with a few other guys that have been in contact with Arkansas, but bringing in a lot of guys there is, you've got a handful of guys coming back, between you've got Quincy Rhodes, Keandre Johnson, Kevin Otis, Caleb Bell, Trent Sellers. So experience with Quincy Rhodes, handful of really young guys. So bring in some guys that have experience to go along with that young talent you got is, just a good idea.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So definitely, I like what's his name, the Florida guy on the D
Michael
line.
Bourier.
Yes, I like him a lot. I'd really like to have him. Obviously, would like a bunch of those guys, but that's kind of the one that stood out to me in terms of who I prioritize getting.
Right. And another guy that has familiarity with the coaching staff with Ron Roberts, who was previously at Florida. So that kind of fits in Arkansas's favor when they have these guys coming in to visit. So
Yeah,
you jump over to the linebacker room. One of the biggest linebackers visiting Arkansas is Kamori House from North Carolina. He's ranked as one of the top linebackers in this transfer portal class.
I think, is he on campus or was yesterday?
Yes, he was on campus
Okay.
yesterday, possibly today as well. And then you got visits planned from Cam Cooper from Western Colorado, Steve Souls from Kentucky, and Jaquavion Smith out of Howard. So handful of linebackers coming in for a visit. Another, position that Arkansas needs to replenish is, as of right now, you've got two guys and an incoming freshman in your linebacking room, and you need to bring in easily 4 or 5 guys, if not more.
Yeah.
And then you wrap up on the defensive backs. We talked about Christian Harrison, already one commit that Arkansas's got out of Cincinnati. Handful of other guys coming in for a visit. Ian Foster out of Southern Miss. Marcus Wimberly from Oklahoma, if that name sounds familiar. He is a former Arkansas kid. Yeah. He was hurt majority freshman year, didn't play a ton. So could be looking for just a fresh start and come play back closer to home. You got Kanye Thompson out of Slippery Rock. That's the JUCO kid that we, had been talked about that was excited about Arkansas. Jaheim Johnson out of Tulane. Malcolm Hartzog out of Nebraska. Javian Robinson out of Arizona State. Shelton Lewis out of Clemson. Smiley Bradford out of Purdue. And Lakeith Rowland out of Maryland. Visiting over the next few weeks, or next few days into the next week. So, it's going to be busy keeping up and tracking all these guys visiting and guys committing, 5 on the board now with the most recent kicker commit from Tennessee. So, it's been a fun, exciting.
Bradford from Purdue, just because I won't be able to talk about a guy with the first name Smiley. I love that. It's awesome. Right. So.
But so it's going to be fun to continue to cover this portal and keep updated with who's visiting, who's committing, who's going elsewhere. The biggest one I'm interested to see that develops over the next few, week or so. I was going to say a few weeks, but in a few weeks the portal's going to be closed because it's only a 15-day window. So you've got 12 days left. So
yeah.
What Arkansas does in the quarterback category, because that's one of concern where you're going to need to bring in at least 3 guys. KJ Jackson's your only guy. It seems like AJ Hill could be a lock for Arkansas, as lock as you could say, with him being very familiar with both Silverfield and Cramsey. So
I won't even go as far as a lock just because of the teams he had offers from and just how highly of a ranked prospect he was. But I think it makes the most sense for him to come here. Just with the familiarity, but also one shock to see him go to another Power 4 conference team.
Right. Because, he's going to want to go somewhere where he has the chance to compete. With KJ Jackson being the only one here, I don't think a new coach is going to come in and just automatically say, hey, it's your job. It's more than likely going to be an open competition between whoever is brought in. Yes, KJ could be a favorite because it was, that was a big deal that Silverfield made of getting him to come back. But, you're going to want healthy competition. And, a guy like AJ Hill, who's almost, very similar. I would almost go as far as to say a mirror image of KJ in terms of just, body type. KJ's 6'4", 225. AJ Hill is listed as 6'4", 215.
Yeah.
So very similar type of builds, type of players. He is a 4-star kid coming out of high school. I mean, you just don't say no to that. Bring in some good competition.
Yeah, for sure.
Look at it that way. So that's all we've got from now in terms of the transfer portal. That's all the news that we've had. That's all the news that, we're continuing to track everything. We got a lovely spreadsheet built that we got everything posted and tracking and visits and everything. So anything that we find out, we'll let you guys know. Any commitments, anything like that. So, yeah.
I don't have anything else to add. So
I was about to say, with that, we'll get ready to wrap up here. But as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Make sure to hit that bell that way and subscribe that way. Anytime we go live, you don't miss anything, especially right now with the transfer portal going on right now. So, we'll get ready to wrap up here. Go into the week. Arkansas, like I mentioned, will have its first SEC road test on Wednesday at Ole Miss on SEC Network. Tune in for that. Then we'll be back on Thursday and, update you on anything portal unless anything crazy happens. And then we might have shows in between now and then. But until then, we're going to get ready to wrap up here. Everybody have a great rest of your Sunday night and start of your week. And, just stay tuned across of our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the above. And until next time, we're going to get out of here from Zane and myself. We're going to wrap up, and we'll see you on Thursday.